It was a rainy Thursday afternoon in Seattle when I first met Ryan Carter. I remember the way the city lights blurred through the coffee shop window, streaks of gold and red smeared by the constant drizzle. I had just left a meeting that drained the last bit of enthusiasm I had for corporate life, and all I wanted was caffeine and quiet. Instead, I got him. He was sitting in the corner, reading a paperback novel, something obscure, literary. When I reached for the last blueberry scone, his hand touched mine. He smiled, said, "You take it, I was going to pretend I wanted it anyway." I laughed. It wasn't love at first sight, but it was easy. Instant comfort. I hadn't felt that in years. My name is Emily Green. At that time, I was 29, working as a senior brand strategist at a mid-tier agency. Life was decent, predictable, structured, but emotionally barren. I hadn't been in a relationship since my college ex cheated on me 5 years ago. I had walls. Ryan didn't try to tear them down. He just quietly existed next to them until they started to crack. Within weeks, he was part of my routine. Movie nights, weekend hikes, late-night conversations about philosophy and obscure music. He was smart, soft-spoken, attentive. A software consultant, he said. Traveled often for work, mostly California and the East Coast. Always just enough detail to make it believable, never so much that it seemed rehearsed. By the third month, he'd met my best friend, Jessica. She was the skeptical one. Red hair, sharp eyes, even sharper intuition. "He's too polished," she said once over brunch. "No one's that clean, that well-spoken, that perfect." I brushed it off. Jessica had trust issues. Ryan was kind, thoughtful. He remembered my coffee order after our second date. He fixed the leaky faucet in my kitchen without being asked. He never raised his voice. Never pressured me. But in hindsight, maybe he was too perfect. There were small things. Odd moments. Once, I noticed he flinched when I asked if we could take a selfie at Pike Place. "I hate how I look in pictures," he said, almost snapping. Then, apologizing immediately. I didn't push. Another time, I saw his hands tremble when my mom casually mentioned looking people up on Facebook. He made a joke and changed the subject. Smooth. Effortless. But the twitch in his jaw lingered. I remember the first time he stayed over. I found his wallet on the bathroom sink the next morning. It was heavy, old leather. I wasn't snooping, just moving it until I noticed the ID. His name said Ryan Carter, yes, but the photo was different. Same eyes, maybe. But a different expression. Sharper cheekbones. Clean-shaven. The man in the picture looked 5 years younger. Not so strange, right? People don't always update their IDs. I shrugged it off. But my fingers hesitated just a second, too long on the leather. When I placed the wallet back, I told myself, don't start imagining things. I had a habit of self-sabotage. Jessica had said so. Maybe I was just waiting for something to go wrong. 2 years passed like that. 2 years of what felt like love. Holidays together. A cabin trip in Montana. A brief pregnancy scare. We even started looking at places in Portland where he said a new consulting gig might lead him. But I never met his family. Estranged, he said. Long story. Complicated. I didn't press. I figured we all had ghosts we weren't ready to exorcise. Still, some things kept bothering me. Subtle, nagging inconsistencies. One night, as he cooked dinner, I asked about his college days. He hesitated. Said he went to a small school in Vermont. I asked which one. Burlington College, he said. The way he said it felt rehearsed. Too fast. Too clean. I Googled it later. Burlington College, shut down in 2016. Ryan would have graduated in 2019. I told myself he must have meant something else. Maybe I misheard. Maybe there was a different Burlington school. The doubt settled in quietly, like fog creeping under a door. I didn't confront him. But I started noticing more. He never had photos from before we met. No high school or college friends. No old Facebook posts. Just a pristine account with minimal activity. The earliest post was dated the same month we met. Still, I let it go. Until one morning, while he was in the shower, his phone buzzed. Just once. I never touched his phone, respect, boundaries, all that. But something made me look. The message preview read, Call me back. It's about the name change. We can't delay this anymore. Sender. Unknown number. I froze. My throat closed. I put the phone down, exactly where it had been. When he came out, wrapped in a towel, smiling, I smiled too. But something had shifted. I couldn't unsee the cracks anymore. The rest of that morning played out like nothing had happened. Ryan made pancakes, blueberry my favorite. He joked about taking a random road trip the following weekend, maybe to Crater Lake. I nodded along, laughed where appropriate, kissed him goodbye at the door. But my mind stayed glued to that text. It's about the name change. I replayed it over and over like a song stuck on loop. Who was that? Emily? Elaine? Erica? Was it a woman? A lawyer? A co-conspirator? The next day, while he was at work, I found myself doing something I swore I'd never do in any relationship I snooped. His laptop was always password locked. His phone, too. But I remembered something. He once used my birthday as the code for Spotify when we shared a playlist. It worked. The phone unlocked. A rush of shame mixed with adrenaline filled my chest. The messages were mostly normal. Jessica would have rolled her eyes. Told you, you overthink everything. But then I opened a folder in his notes app labeled Utilities. Inside, a list of usernames and passwords for accounts I didn't recognize. One email address stood out, devin.mclean1991@gmail.com. Who the hell was Devin McLean? I googled the name. Nothing much came up, just a couple of outdated job listings, one LinkedIn profile with no photo, no connections. It was barren. I searched the email. Still no useful hits. My fingers hovered, trembling over the back button when something else caught my eye. In the same folder was a note titled, Court Date, 2019, Kings County. Why would someone like Ryan, calm, poised, responsible, have a court date saved in his private phone notes? That evening, when he returned, he acted like nothing had changed. I wanted to scream at him, "Who are you really?" But I couldn't. Not yet. I needed more. Just a little more proof. Something I could hold in my hand, throw on the table, and say, "Explain this." That night, I pretended to sleep. Around 1:17 a.m., Ryan left the bed. I peeked through half-closed lids. He walked to the living room, sat on the couch, phone to his ear. He whispered. The walls were thin. I could barely make out the words. "No, she doesn't know yet. I'm handling it. Just give me until the end of the month. Yes, I know what's at stake." The hair on my arms stood up. The next morning, I called in sick. Sat at the kitchen counter, staring at my laptop like it would spit out the truth. I dug deeper. I tried a public record search on Devin McLean and the phrase Kings County Court. One result popped up. Devin T. McLean, a legal name change petition, filed 2019, Seattle Municipal Court. It was real. He changed his name. Just before we met. My chest constricted. My breath came out in short, ragged gasps. What kind of person changes their name and never mentions it? Jessica came over that night. I needed someone to say I wasn't going crazy. She listened, eyebrows furrowed, lips pressed into a hard line. You realize this is serious, right? This isn't just weird. It's criminal if he's hiding from something, maybe even dangerous. I nodded, hands wrapped around my coffee mug like it could anchor me. Jessica added, "You need to get out." But I couldn't. Not yet. A week later, something happened that shattered the last bit of safety I thought I had. I was in the bedroom, folding laundry, when I noticed Ryan had left his briefcase half open. It was usually locked. He always said it held his client files and confidential work data. But curiosity clawed at me. Inside were documents. Fake IDs. 3 of them. All with his face. All with different names. Ryan Carter. Devin McLean. Ethan Cole. I dropped the folder. My heartbeat pounded in my ears. My breath hitched. Then I heard the door creak. Ryan stood in the hallway, holding a grocery bag, watching me. He smiled. But his eyes weren't smiling. He said nothing. Just walked in, placed the bag on the counter, and calmly asked, "Did you find what you were looking for?" My blood turned to ice. I lied. I was just looking for laundry receipts. Your briefcase was open and I was curious, he finished for me. The way he said it was too calm, measured, controlled, like he expected this day to come. Emily, he said, walking slowly toward me. There are things you don't understand. I took a step back. Then, too. Try me, I whispered. He reached for the briefcase, calmly zipped it shut. Not yet. Not until I know you're ready. Ready for what? His silence was louder than any scream. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed with Ryan next to me, his breathing calm and steady, like nothing had changed. Like I hadn't just discovered the man I'd shared 2 years of my life with had 3 identities. I stared at the ceiling, counting the seconds between his breaths. My mind raced through possibilities. Was he in witness protection? A con man? A criminal on the run? Morning came, but it brought no clarity. I had planned to confront him, to demand answers. But the moment I looked into his eyes across the kitchen table, all the words I rehearsed crumbled into silence. You're quiet today, he said, sipping his coffee. Something bothering you? The casual tone made my stomach twist. I offered a forced smile. Just work stuff. He nodded. Let me know if I can help. I almost laughed. Help? That word felt like a joke. Later that afternoon, I called in a favor from an old college friend, Mark, now a PI in Oregon. I sent him everything I had. The names, the court file, the addresses I found on the fake IDs. He didn't laugh. He didn't doubt me. His response chilled me. Emily, this guy's clean on paper. But the multiple identities? That's a red flag. I'll dig deeper. But you need to be careful. And I mean that. That same night, I installed a hidden camera in our living room. Something in me snapped. I wasn't waiting anymore. I needed evidence, not whispers of suspicion. I needed the full truth. Even if it hurt. Days passed. Ryan remained perfect. Dinner. Netflix. Kisses. Sex. Like always. But now I watched it all with new eyes, analyzing everything. The way he glanced at his phone before answering me, the faint pause before answering questions about his past. On Friday, I got a call from Mark. His voice was tense. I found something. One of the names, Ethan Cole, was flagged in a missing persons case 6 years ago. He matched Ryan's photo, almost identically. But the case was closed, marked as a runaway. Last seen leaving a halfway house in Spokane. I stood frozen in the laundry room, phone pressed to my ear. What does that mean? I don't know yet. But Emily, if that was his original name, then the other identities came after. That's backward for someone in witness protection. Usually you start over once. You don't keep changing unless you're hiding. I hung up and stared at the washing machine spinning mindlessly. That evening I checked the camera footage. Nothing unusual at first. Just him reading. Watching TV. Then at 2:13 a.m., something strange happened. Ryan sat on the couch, holding a photo I didn't recognize. One of a woman. He whispered, "I'm sorry, Alana. I had to." I paused the footage. Alana? Who was that? The next morning, I couldn't help myself. I confronted him. Just a little. Hey, weird question. I began casually buttering toast. Do you know someone named Alana? His face didn't change. Not even a blink. But his hand hesitated for a half second over his coffee mug. No, he said smoothly. Why? I shrugged. Saw it in a dream or something. Strange name, right? He smiled. Never heard of her. Liar. That same night, I went into full breakdown mode. I couldn't eat. Couldn't think. Couldn't breathe without wondering who the hell I was living with. I tried to talk to Jessica again, but she was out of town. By Sunday, I was unraveling. I woke up sweating from a nightmare. Ryan standing at the foot of the bed, smiling with blood on his hands. I ran to the bathroom and vomited. That afternoon, I packed a bag. Just the essentials. Passport. Cash. My laptop. My gut told me things were about to get worse. At 6:44 p.m., it happened. I was in the shower when I heard something fall outside. I rushed out, grabbing a towel, and found the hidden camera on the floor, smashed to pieces. Ryan stood next to it, holding the wire in his hand. He didn't say a word. I backed into the wall. He stared at me with dead eyes and said, "You shouldn't have done that." "Ryan, what's going on? Who are you really?" He took a step forward. "Tell me the truth," I said, trying to sound firm, even though my legs were trembling. He leaned in close, too close, and whispered, "You're not ready." Then he walked out. I stood there, wet, trembling, alone with a shattered camera and a truth I still didn't understand. But one thing was certain now. He knew I was watching, and the game had changed. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even pretend to. I locked the bedroom door after Ryan left the house, heart pounding so violently it felt like it would burst. I sat on the edge of the bed with the smashed remains of the hidden camera in my lap. He had known. For how long? Was I ever really one step ahead? Or had he been allowing me to play detective, watching me unravel like entertainment? The next morning he was gone. No note. No text. Just the lingering smell of his cologne in the hallway and the strange silence that filled every room like smoke after a fire. I called Mark in a panic. He found the camera. He knew Mark. He smashed it. There was a beat of silence on the other end before he answered. "Emily, you need to leave that house. Today." "I'm scared." "You should be." That was all I needed. I threw clothes into a duffel bag, grabbed my keys, my laptop, and bolted for the car. I didn't even lock the front door behind me. I drove with no destination. Just away. 2 hours later, I parked outside a cheap roadside motel in Tacoma and collapsed onto the bed. I didn't cry. There was no room left in me for tears, only this strange, vibrating numbness. At 2:05 p.m., my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I didn't want this to get ugly. "Come home. We need to talk." R. My throat dried instantly. I stared at the message, every part of me screaming, "Don't go back." But another part, smaller, quieter, needed to know. I needed answers. The full story. Who he really was. Why he did this. Who the hell Alana was. And what I had gotten myself into. I called Jessica and gave her the motel address. "If I don't call you back by 9 p.m., call the cops," I whispered. "You're seriously going to meet him?" "Emily, just promise me." I went back. The house was dim, quiet. The air inside was colder than it should have been. The only light was coming from the living room lamp. Ryan stood in the middle of the room, hands in his pockets, like he was waiting for a job interview. "I thought I told you not to follow me," I said. He looked at me, tired, unreadable. "I didn't lie about everything," he started. "I need you to know that." I crossed my arms. "Then tell me. Start from the beginning. Who are you?" He looked down at the floor. My name wasn't always Ryan Brooks. It was Ethan Cole. I was in and out of foster care my whole life. Bad placements. Worse people. I ran away at 19, got tangled with the wrong crowd. I did things I'm not proud of. The kind of things that don't get erased easily. He walked to the bookshelf and picked up the photo I saw on the footage. "This is Alana," he said quietly. "She was my wife." A sharp gasp left my throat. "What?" I whispered. "She died in a fire 5 years ago. Arson. They never found who did it. She wasn't supposed to be home that night." "I was." "But I wasn't. I got scared. I fled." He swallowed hard. "I became someone else. Then someone else again. Not to scam anyone, but to escape everything that came with that life. Grief. Guilt. People I owed. People who wanted me dead." My knees weakened. I sank into the couch, my mind spinning. "Why didn't you just tell me?" I asked. 2 years, Ryan. 2 years. You didn't think I deserved the truth." He looked broken for the first time. "I was going to. I swear. I loved you. I still do. But the minute I told you, I knew everything would change." I laughed bitterly. "You think this hasn't changed everything already?" He stepped forward, but I held up my hand. "And the other names? The IDs?" He shook his head slowly. "Insurance. In case the past found me." "You said you loved me." I spat. "But everything about you is a lie." Was any of it real? He looked at me with those familiar green eyes. Every second with you is real. I stared at him. And then, without warning, I screamed. All of it came crashing out of me at once. Fear, betrayal, fury, sorrow. I threw the photo across the room. It shattered against the wall. He didn't flinch. You manipulated me. You took my life and used it to bury your ghosts. I never meant to hurt you, he whispered. But you did. My voice echoed against the walls, hollow and final. He took a slow step back. You want me to leave? I nodded, tears finally falling. Yes. I want you out of this house. Out of my life. And if you ever come near me again, I will go to the police. You understand me? He stared at me, and for a moment, I saw the man I had loved. The man I thought I knew. Then he nodded. He walked past me without another word, without a bag, without shoes. Just the clothes on his back and the ghost of a life built on lies. The door closed behind him with a final, quiet click. And I was alone again. 3 weeks passed. In those 21 days, I became both detective and ghost. I floated through life without knowing what time it was, what day it was, or who I was becoming. I changed the locks on the doors. I deleted all our photos. I filed a formal complaint with the police, though Mark told me not to expect much. He's a ghost, he said. The system can't trace someone who doesn't legally exist. They couldn't even find a real birth certificate for Ryan Brooks, or Ethan Cole, or any of the 6 other aliases linked to his face through facial recognition. He was gone. But he wasn't, because he still lived in every memory I'd ever had of the past 2 years. Every laugh, every intimate moment, every shared dream, plan, and smile. That was the cruelest part. None of it felt fake. And maybe it wasn't. Maybe he really had loved me in his twisted, broken way. But how do you grieve someone who's still out there? How do you mourn a version of your life that never really existed? Jessica came over one night. She brought wine and no questions, just silence and presence. But I needed to talk. I keep wondering, I whispered, my voice hoarse, if there was ever a version of this story where he told the truth and we still worked out. Jess didn't answer right away. There probably was, she said softly. But you don't build a future on landmines, Em. That line stayed with me. You don't build a future on landmines. I try to go back to work. My boss gave me soft smiles and easy deadlines, but even the simplest tasks felt meaningless. I looked at people differently now, wondering what secrets they were hiding, wondering how well we ever really know anyone. Sometimes I found myself Googling the names again. Ryan, Ethan, Alana, searching police records, fire incident reports, anything. I even found a grainy news article dated 6 years back. Local woman dies in suspected arson in Portland suburbs, husband missing. I stared at the pixelated image. It was her, Alana. Beautiful, brunette, warm eyes. There were no follow-ups, no arrests, just silence. Like her life, like mine, had simply evaporated. One afternoon, I came home from the store and found a letter wedged under the front door. No name, just a plain white envelope. Inside, handwritten in black ink. I never wanted to be a villain. I just didn't know how to stop running. I hope you find peace in the truth, even if I couldn't give you love and honesty. R. I froze. It was his handwriting. I would have known it anywhere. No return address. No date. Just 10 lines of regret. The police dusted it for prints. Found nothing useful. Mark was livid. He wanted me to press charges, but I was too tired. Too hollow. There was no threat in the letter. Just grief. And cowardice. That night, I burned the letter in the fireplace and watched the words curl into ash. By the end of month 2, something shifted. I stopped sleeping with the lights on. I stopped expecting his voice in every creak of the floorboards. I started painting again, just small strokes of color on a canvas that had sat untouched in the attic since before Ryan ever came into my life. Sometimes, I wondered if I'd see him again. In a crowd, across a train platform, In a story someone else told about a man they once loved who turned out to be someone else entirely. And sometimes, I thought I already had. Like the man walking behind me at the gas station who wore the same boots Ryan used to. Or the one who ordered black coffee with 1 sugar at the diner on Main Street, just like him. But when I turned around, it was never him. Just my mind playing tricks. Or maybe warning me. One day, a woman named Claire from a local support group emailed me. Jessica had mentioned my situation. Her story was eerily similar. A partner who led a double life, a marriage built on lies, years lost in a web of secrets. I agreed to meet her. We talked for 3 hours straight. And for the first time since the truth unraveled, I didn't feel alone. That's when healing began. Not in some grand, sweeping moment of clarity, but in the quiet realization that survival was not the same as healing. And I could have both. Some nights I still wake up thinking I heard the door open. Some mornings I still reach for a toothbrush that isn't there anymore. But every day, the grip loosens a little. Every day, I remember a bit more of who I was before him. Before Ryan. Before Ethan. Before the man who wore 100 names and still managed to leave me asking, was I the only real thing in his life? The last thing I kept was a photo. One he never saw me take. He was standing in the kitchen in January, pouring coffee, sunlight spilling across his shoulder, laughing at something I'd said off camera. It was candid. Ordinary. And now, devastating. I keep it in a drawer. Not to remember him, but to remember me. Because no matter how twisted the story became, I survived it. And I won't let a man with no name take mine away.